We know how good the sampler is on iOS, on GarageBand. It's immense, it's so useful and a very welcome addition. You can do your sort of Ferris Bueller stuff. La, 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 you can do all that stuff, but there's masses more you can do with this. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are with the iOS GarageBand on an iPad. As you can see, the sampler meter is moving up and down with my voice, so it's basically using the internal mic. Now I've got my iPad sat on top of the snare drum, which I'm going to use to sample. Okay, so I'm going to press start and then hit the snare. I mean, that's pretty immense already. That's just the internal mic of the iPad. Now, it's taken a sample that's quite long because I didn't press stop until after the snare had died away, well, quite a long time afterwards. So I can actually trim this back so you don't get any extraneous noises. If you have lots of samples with lots of silence, the noise does pile up. Now, I'm just going to... There we go, that's great. I really like that. Now we've got shape, tune and trim. Trim at the moment is what I'm on here, where I'm varying the length of the sample. I can tune the sample. Now when you tune it, you do get a reference pitch with it as well. So I can actually, if you're trying to tune something that's pitched, it's actually really useful. But I don't need to do that. I'm going to go to shape now, and basically what happens is we get a sort of a decay and a release and an attack. That's pretty useful. If I take the release all the way to minimum, the sample will only last as long as I hold my finger down. If I hold it, put it all the way to the right, it'll pretty much play the entire sample. If it's a long sample and you release, you'll hear the fade out of that release time. If I bring the decay down, after an initial attack, it falls off very quickly. So for a snare drum, actually, I'd want it to be full decay because the thing decays by itself. The attack time, if I do that, it actually takes the attack off at the beginning. Okay, that's fine. I want it to be exactly as I recorded it because I really like it. So I'm just going to record that now. Just going to record a snare sound. Okay, so I really want those offbeat, those little grace notes to actually be a little bit tidier in terms of their level. So I'm just going to quantize it anyway. I'm going to do 16th swing heavy actually. So I have ding ding ga ding ding ga, get that sort of quantization. I need to go into the edit pane and actually vary the velocity of the ones that are off the beat. That one. And that one. And then have the others consistently the same. Okay, that's all good. Now, I want a bass drum. How am I going to get a bass drum? Let's say you've only got that snare drum. Well, I'm going to duplicate this track, open up the new sampler, and this time take a sample that's with the snare off. Okay, let's try that. Now if I pitch this a bit better, I'm just going to take that right down. If you click and hold, sometimes it will actually allow you to look in really, really fine to trim it. There we go, like that. Just play with the shape. How's this going to work? Well, let's just try turning the bass up of this particular track. Maybe compress it a bit, take the treble down so we don't hear so much of the pitched sound of the sampler there, of the drum. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to record some bass drum. There we go. Just going to quantize this to swing 16ths. There it is. It's done already because I duplicated that from the other track. Now I'm going to need some hi-hats, so actually I'm just going to use the drummer's hi-hats. So if I use an acoustic drum kit, I'm going to take the bass drum and the snare drum away with no fills, leaving only the hi-hats. There we go. Just take that metronome off, because it's very easy for it to drive you around the twist and you not to notice that it's on. Okay, leaving aside a few little programming issues, I think I'd want to have a few extra notes on that bass drum. Let's just have a quick look at that. I'd like another one on that third. Oh, just undo that. Put another one somewhere and just drag it back to where I'd like it. There we go. Yeah, there's enough variety going on in there. Now I can also I just want to take the reverb off that bass drum, but leave it maybe on the snare with a bit of compression, maybe a little bit of distortion, just to wake that snare up a little bit. So if I just go and find a distortion control and just see what happens. Just made it a little bit more present. Now, so far then, I've used 2 sampler tracks and a drummer track. I'm just going to make this also 4-bar section because I want to actually save this as a sample in itself to re-import. How am I going to do that? And why would I? Well, I'll show you in a minute. Now I'm going to save this and I'm going to call it, let's have a look, Sampler Groove. There we go. Now I'm going to share this as a song, so it's just a 4-bar loop. So song, uncompressed. Now I'm going to share this, depending on the iOS you've got. My iOS seems to involve an extra step. Perhaps yours doesn't, but I'm going to go, instead of save to files, I'm going to open in and then save to files, because beforehand it was greyed out and it was a bit annoying, but this is a workaround, and this is what's good about iOS. It's just all about the workarounds. GarageBand file transfer, Sampler Groove. There we go. So I'm going to open a new song now and find my keyboard with my sampler. So I've only got a sampler track on my new song. If I go to import at the top right, let's have a look. What's it called? I can't remember what it's. Sampler Groove. Short-term memory of the goldfish. Okay, now I've got this. So on a single key, I've got my complete mix. Now, what can you do with this then? Well, there's quite a lot you can do. What happens, for example, if I do this? I've got a nice little sort of cross rhythm going on here between C and G. That's quite a useful one because G is 3 over 2 times faster than C, or 1.5 times. That's twice, that's an octave. But maybe I'd want to re-trigger this sample on the same key. Now you can't do that on this. But what you can do, if I just record this maybe. Yes, I caught that note slightly late, so I'm just going to quantize that because it was out of time with the metronome. Let's quantize straight quarter note. Now this should work with the metronome. Good. Now I'm going to take that metronome away. I'm actually going to duplicate this track, and I'm going to copy this and then paste it. But I'm going to paste it slightly later on in the track, the track. So I need a dotted crotchet. Where are we? That's a beat there. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste the track there, so it's slightly delayed. Okay, now these things, it's great because it throws up unexpected things. What I could do is on the delayed version, I could take the bass, I could just roll off, leaving the middle, maybe. Visual EQ, mid-range, and perhaps put this through, I don't know, a phaser or something. Anything's possible with this, and that's the best thing about this. I quite like that. This is unexpected. This is, well, I sort of know roughly where I'm going with it, but that's the fun of it. You just don't know where you're going to go with it. And it's great fun. Now, you could, of course, vary the delay. You could maybe have an 1/8 note delay, so it just starts an 1/8 note afterwards instead of 3/8. I like that even more. Let's see, maybe if I duplicate this again and copy that same thing, maybe a 16th note afterwards. Don't know, is this going to work? Might not. I'm going to take the level down a little bit. I'm even more into that. Well, I mean, you know, the world's your oyster with this thing, and all I've used is this snare drum that I've just played a couple of samples into, and of course the hi-hats on drummer. The world is your oyster, it really is. It's very, very powerful indeed.